What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Dirt Road. That's Mike over there.
We got Mr. Rick.
What up, Mike?
Sir.
So in our last video, I don't know if it was our last video or one or two before, we were talking about Kamala Harris's campaign, and I was saying it was
I
think it was one or two ago. I was saying that I believe she's running a very smart, well, she or her people are running a very smart campaign. Mike disagreed. We got into it, and we wound up talking over each other, which is not healthy, obviously. Doesn't get the points across at all. So what we figured we'd do this time is we're just going to take a turn. Mike's going to speak for a few minutes on why he thinks Kamala is running a not very smart campaign, and I'm going to give my points as to why I think she is. It's not really about Trump. I mean, we may touch on Trump's campaign also and how it's being affected. But, just for all you people out there who don't maybe understand that you could hold two competing thoughts in your head at the same time, I'm wearing this Trump hat to remind you that just because I'm analyzing Kamala's campaign as being smart and well run doesn't mean I'm voting for her. So, there it is. This will confuse those of you who can't figure that out, but it'll also help remind the rest of you that, yes, you can hold multiple thoughts in your head at the same time. You know that, right, Mike?
100%.
You actually can.
Most of the world needs to learn that.
Yeah, they do. So I do think she's running I think her campaign's being very well run. I think it's a very smart campaign. I'm not saying Trump's isn't. I think he's hit a little roadblock. I'll get into that later on. But Mike is going to go first because this is actually his farm. So he gets to go first. So, Mike, I'm going to shut up. Mike's going to say whatever he wants to say for as long as he wants to say it. Then I'm going to go, and then we'll have a little discussion on each other's points. So, I'm going to take some notes on what you say there, Mikey.
Of course.
Go ahead, Mike. Go get him. Why is Kamala not running a good campaign?
All right. So, I got a few key points that make me think that, I will say this. I will give this caveat, though, and I have to give the caveat. I do think she has excellent strategists in that media campaign, and her media and excellent strategists in that campaign. They're doing, Herculean work to try and bolster that image and kind of remove her from the whole Biden agenda thing. So I'll give them credit for that. I have to give them credit for that. They are doing a good job with that. That's definitely true. But overall, why I think the campaign is not good is I think you could have the best campaign staff in the world, but if you're just a bad candidate, you're a bad candidate. And I think she's a bad candidate. I think the primary results the first time around, where she came in less than 1% before she was the DEI hire for vice president, show she's a bad candidate. She had Willie Brown bolster her in California, and then she was able to, from there, leapfrog to other positions in California with people helping her because she's a useful idiot. She'll do whatever they want her to do. She'll do whatever they tell her to do. That's why she's beneficial to them. We don't want anybody, when I'm saying this, I'm referring to the party elites, the ones that actually run behind the scenes, run that party. They want her because she's willing to do whatever the hell it is they tell her to do because she wants that position and that limelight, so to speak. So, but she's not a good candidate. She never has been. If you look at her race in the presidential race against Biden in the primary then, if you look at her performance since 2020, she's a terrible candidate. She had the interview where they asked her about why she never went to the border, and she said she hadn't gone to Europe either. A good politician could have easily deflected that in so many positive ways and made it look like a really smart answer. Simply put, you could have said something along the lines of, well, I haven't been to the border, but I've also been very involved in what's going on there and in trying to kind of coordinate and mediate with these different organizations and groups and bureaus and agencies to make things kind of more effective and maybe find a more reasonable solution to the entire situation that's going on there. You could have spilled out, fluff words all day long and made that sound good, but she couldn't do it. And then she recently had the interview with Dana Bash for her and Walz. And, Walz is definitely a more practiced politician. He came across that way in an interview. He was definitely more practiced. And she just kind of came off aloof and kind of just not bright, honestly, just not bright. And I don't think she's a stupid person necessarily, but she just doesn't seem very bright. So I don't know if maybe she gets nervous or what it is, but she's just not a good candidate. Leaving that part behind, leaving her out of it now, looking to the campaign itself, right? We have little leakers. We have these policy reversals that have gone on since her first campaign, where she's taken a 180 on just about every major policy going. Within her own party, she has this civil war between her, the progressive wing and the establishment wing of the parties. And so that, coupled with who she has on her campaign staff, it just seems like maybe she picked a bunch of people from both sides, or she didn't really kind of pick strong leaders within her campaign to kind of shut down those leaks, because she's getting continuous leaks to the media. And the media's been putting shots across her bow a lot lately. They've been kind of calling her out on stuff a lot lately. They're starting to really ping her I think her honeymoon period's over, and it's starting to show. She's starting to lose some ground in a lot of those polls and stuff. She's lost ground in a lot of the swing states, which is for her critical. Those swing states are swing states for a reason. They make or break the election. So that's another indicator to me that the campaign's not being run efficiently or being run well, or maybe it's just kind of going off the rails a bit. But the leakers and the polling going down in those key states, those are the two things that really, truly make me think the campaign's starting to falter. And my last point being just the energy, overall, the energy. You don't see a lot of excitement for her. They have to bus in these people for these fake rallies she holds, or they use AI to fill in seats in these fake rallies, and all this stuff gets exposed immediately and brought out immediately on social media. That has an effect. Even if you are a Kamala voter, if you start seeing stuff like that, you're going to start to wonder, am I really backing the right person, or is it even worth my vote? Because I don't think that those hardcore Kamala, or Democrat people, I should say, aren't necessarily going to vote Trump, but I could see them going and writing in RFK or Biden or somebody else because they just don't feel like Kamala has it. There's no energy for her. And that's really my last point on that, is the energy. Those are the things that kind of make me think her campaign's not quite, as strong as it might seem. But I do have to give the caveat, like I told Rick, right? I can tell you guys again, just to remind you, she has some very smart people running that campaign. She has some very smart strategists and some very smart people in that campaign. I don't know where the disconnect lies. Maybe it's in her not listening, but there's definitely a disconnect there somewhere. So, my caveat.
So I paid attention to every word you said. I wrote down some notes so that I could respond later. You want my pad? When I
Actually,
speak?
yeah, that would be help. Actually,
You got it. By the way, while I'm giving Mike the pad, I just want to remind everybody out there, all 24 of our viewers, that that I let Mike off easy. I let him off $200. Is our bet.
I'm gonna win.
Well, I'm not betting against Trump, but Mike said that Trump was going to win by 60%. I let him off the hook there because I didn't want to embarrass himself on social media here. So I told him, all right, I'll take 55%. So he is.
55 is what we agreed to, but I still think 60%, folks. I do. My gut.
I'm not going to do
confident.
that. Listen, Mike, if you were a stranger, I'd take the 60%. I'm not going to do that to you. So 55%. I'll let you off at that. There is not a chance in hell he gets 55% of the popular vote. That's the over-under, though. We have a $200 bet, and he's going to hand me that $200 right here on air. Right here on air.
Right here in front of our hidden barn in New York City.
Yeah, and that's what...
I will happily pay that bet if I lose, without a doubt. But I just feel...
I charge $100 an hour to tutor, so take this like this is 2 tutoring lessons, that social media is not real. What you see on Twitter is not America. It's just not. But we'll get there.
I don't use that. I don't use it as a metric. I look at a lot of things. That's one metric, I think, but not one that I would mainly use.
I do think that Kamala Harris is running, either her or her people are running a very, very smart campaign. And listen, results matter. Bill Parcells always said, the football coach, he said, you are what your record is. Right? You are what your record is. So
sure.
if you're an 11-5 team, you're a good team. If you're a 6-8 team, you're mediocre. Or 8-8 team, you're mediocre. The fact that she is even competitive in this race, even competitive, is a testament to the good campaign she's running, because everything is against her here. She's the vice president for a historically unpopular president. And again, not my opinion, that's facts, those are numbers. Yes. It's not just me. I could love Biden for all you care, right? These are the numbers. Biden is a historically unpopular president. He's been at anywhere between 38 and 45% almost his entire presidency, since the Afghanistan pullout. We've never seen anything like that. Even Trump, who never sniffed 50%, was always at 47%, until COVID and everything. But anyway, so just the fact that she's even competitive and that the polls have swung in her favor, and of course that was going to happen once she got in. There's always that little honeymoon and excitement and whatever, but those polls have stayed pretty steady. And we can't just ignore polls, because an individual poll means nothing. I'm sure Mike agrees with that. But trends do mean something, and Trump was ahead. He was never ahead in 2016, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, always behind. And all of a sudden, this race, he was ahead in every poll. That means something. And he was doing really, really well. Kamala Harris gets in, and there was a big shift in those polls. I mean, there was states that went from Trump +4 to all of a sudden Harris +2. I mean, it's a 6-point swing. So that's the number one thing. Just the fact that she's even competitive in this race tells me she's running a very good campaign, because I do agree with Mike. She's not a good candidate. And again, the fact that she's involved in this race, that she's even competitive, means something. Number two, I know her speech at the Democratic National Convention was pilloried by conservative media and conservative people, but I actually thought she did a very, very good job on a couple of things. One, she stuck mostly to platitudes and didn't get into the policy weeds and all of that, and that was kind of her introduction as a candidate. But the one thing I thought she did that was very, very good for her was it could have been George W. Bush's speech if you took out the abortion part. The rah-rah America, and we're going to kick people's ass, and we're going to stand by Ukraine, and I will never turn on Israel, and all of that sort of stuff. So why did she do that? Because her campaign, or she, is a lot smarter than Biden. Biden spent the last 4 years telling people like me and Mike to go fuck ourselves. Biden hated us. Biden was an angry, bitter old man who didn't care about Trump. He didn't want Trump voters to vote for him. He spent all those years just doing nothing but putting us down. She knows she can get some. And just by what happened today, when Dick Cheney endorsed her, and I hate Dick Cheney, but Dick Cheney endorsed her, this is her being very, very smart. She knew that those national security hawks that are still left in the Republican Party are up for grabs. And Dick Cheney on his own isn't going to win the election for Kamala Harris, but there are a lot of little dicks out there. You know, for a lack of, I thought that was pretty funny. A lot of little dicks out there who agree with Dick Cheney and do want to go blow up the world every day, and every morning when they have their coffee, they want to figure out which country they want to bomb today. So I thought it was very, very smart of her to do that. She also started taking some of Trump, and again, I know, we all know that this is a lie, but this is what politicians do. They shift to the center in a general election. But she's starting to co-opt some of Trump's policies. She even has a commercial out now where she's walking next to the border wall that she condemned when Trump wanted to build it when she was a senator, and she's co-opting this now, and somehow this border czar who let millions and millions of people into America is now pretending to be a border hawk. That's smart. That's what Clinton did. It's called triangulation. It's what Reagan did. You know, it's what every good candidate does. They try to take away their opponents, some of their opponents' ideas, and make them their own. So I thought that that was very smart also. Another advantage that she has is nothing that she's doing right, but just next to Biden, she looks great. Because she's breathing, and she's alive, and she can walk, and she can actually speak in coherent sentences when she's not too busy cackling and making that laugh. But she's avoiding his mistakes. She's avoiding Hillary's mistake. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I'm wrong. I have not seen Kamala Harris play the race card yet. And her surrogates do. They're always talking about she's the first black Asian 5'4" woman to whatever. But I haven't heard her yet. And again, I could be wrong, but I haven't heard her yet bring up the I'm a woman, which is all Hillary did. It was vote for me because I'm going to break the glass ceiling. Remember that? That was it. She's staying away from that, which turns people off. So again, I think she's being very smart. She's not turning people off with the race card and the I'm a woman card and the Hillary Clinton I'm with her card. Somehow, this woman who's in the incumbent administration has positioned herself as an agent of change. I don't know how she's done it, just like I don't understand how they changed her from cackling moron to joyful warrior, but they've done it in the mainstream. You know, again, I'm not talking about people like Mike and I who follow politics, or you guys who follow politics, or the people who watch MSNBC or Fox or News Nation or whatever all day long. I'm talking about just the average people out there who watch ABC News World Tonight a couple of times a week, and maybe when the campaign start to follow. They've done a very, very good job of changing that. She's also outraising Trump, which does mean something. I don't know if it means everything, but it does mean something. It means things anyway. And in the interview, the other thing is that she's kept herself away from it. Now, I admire Trump because Trump will go on any network. He'll talk to anybody. But her campaign knows that when she speaks extemporaneously, she's not as bad as Biden. Because Biden, as Ben Shapiro called him, President Houseplant, which I think is the greatest name ever for Joe Biden. They're keeping her away. So we're going to do a video on the debate next, but the debate's going to be of utmost importance because she can't avoid that. But then again, neither can Trump. So those are the main reasons why I think, Mike, she's running a very smart campaign. I think she's focusing on things that at least she thinks Americans want. I know that she's backtracked on a couple of things. So does Trump. And that's my last point, by the way, is what she's done to Trump. She seems to have put Trump on his back heels. And that's the part that I think is the big success of the Harris campaign. All of a sudden, Donald Trump is in favor of expanding Obamacare. He wants $1 billion mandate on insurance companies to cover IVF. So she's controlling the narrative. She knows she can't beat Donald Trump if the conversation is about immigration, is about crime, is about inflation. She can't beat him with that. So she is controlling the narrative. She has him talking about abortion. He doesn't want to talk about abortion. And he's pissing me off, by the way, with that wishy-washiness. The most pro-life president ever, in his words, all of a sudden is wishy-washy on abortion. But again, I think that's a credit to her campaign that she's backing him into this corner where he has to talk about that. Hopefully in the debate he doesn't, because if he's smart, he's just going to be laser focused on the things that he beats her on. But she's got him all of a sudden proposing IVF for everybody, has him talking about abortion, and every minute that they're talking about things like that is a minute less than they're talking about the things that Trump can win on. So that's basically it, Mike. I got a couple of other things, but I get the feeling that it'll come up in our discussion. So let us know in the comments, Mike's monologue, my monologue, what points you thought were good, what points you thought were bad for each of us. I don't want to know who you thought won. This is not a competition. We're not competing against each other. Hopefully there was a couple of things Mike said that you agree with and a couple of things I said you agree with, because that would make you smart. You're listening to different people, or maybe you think we're both babbling idiots. Either way, that's great. But let us know right down there in those comments what your thoughts are. So, Mike, since I went last, you can go first with the rebuttals here. So what'd you think of my thoughts? And
I agree a lot of what you said.
Where did I go wrong?
I agree with a lot of what you said. Like I told you before, I agree with Rick a lot, right? We see eye to eye on most things. We really do. And I agree with a lot of what he said. I do think they're very smart people within that campaign. And the point I think I liked most, or that I agree with most, was your last point about how she has Trump on his heels in certain categories. So like the abortion, for instance, she's got him on his heels with that. IVF for all, those things. Excellent points, and they do show a strong campaign, because when you're able to take as a candidate and put the other person on their heels and force them to come to your part of the ring to fight where you are, that's a big win. So I agree with that, absolutely. And I think maybe where I go wrong sometimes with this whole thing is I focus on the candidate, not so much the campaign, right? So that might be why maybe some of our disconnect is, because I focus more on her than I do her campaign. But her campaign is run very well. There are, like I said, there are very good strategists and people in there. But I think the majority of her success as a candidate or even a campaign right now is a very complicit media, and that's what bolsters this image of her doing so well.
But Mike, I have to respond to that, because we've been hearing this for my entire life. The media is what the media is,
right?
And it's just it's baked into the cake. It's part of the game, and I complain about it sometimes too. But the bottom line is, it's like when a college basketball team goes on the road. You're going to be facing a home crowd, the other team's home crowd. They're going to be loud. They're going to be against you. The refs may make some calls against you. You have to put that into your plan.
And when
it has to. And Reagan was brilliant at handling the media,
without a doubt,
and the media was very hostile to him. So this whole thing that there's a compliant media and that they're helping her and all of that, first of all, I don't know really how true that is. But even if it is as true as sometimes it comes across, that it is what it is, and that has to be part of the strategy.
What I'm saying is that not so much for the strategy side, but what I think is it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, right? So I think that they misrepresent facts a lot. I think that they present images or present things in such a way that are completely fabricated or dishonest and not at all remotely reflective of what's really happening. I think a lot, especially when it comes to policies to the left, things to the left.
But look, Trump was able. Well, Mike, hold on, because now this is the conversation part. But Trump was able to deal with that in 2016 by using Twitter and by using social media and by calling into shows. So it just. And I do it. I do complain about the media, but sometimes it just becomes tiresome hearing this. Like, I remember back in 2008 when conservatives like us and Fox News were all over because Katie Couric asked Palin what newspapers and magazines she reads. And it was such an unfair question, and it's a gotcha question. It's this and that. Stop acting like a baby. You know, I mean, answer the fucking questions that they give.
Yep.
And that's it. So the media is what the media are, I guess is really the proper way to say it. The media are what the media are. Sure. And that's it. But I do understand what you said about candidate. But I do think right now, and again, let's not conflate good candidate with good possible president. I don't think she would be a good president. Now, listen, maybe she'll surprise us all. If she gets elected, becomes a great president. Who knows? I don't think so. And I doubt you think so. But she is a good candidate right now because she's staying on script. She's being disciplined. She's not blowing it. Let's see what happens at the debate because, again, I think that's really her...
That's her sink or swim.
Yeah, I think that's the big... For both of them, actually. I think it's a big moment. But for her more so because I think people already know Donald Trump and know how they feel about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to... Unless he just says something so outrageous. I don't think he's really going to make it
I don't see him
dent.
putting his foot in his mouth that big. I don't think it really affects him too much.
But for her, this is big because now she's going to have to answer questions off the top of her head. We'll see.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, then I'll discuss with you whether or not she's a good candidate. But up to this point, again, the numbers don't lie. I mean, she shouldn't even... This should not be competitive. Trump should be up by 8, 9, 12 points. This should be a blow. This should be the election you're going to lose money on. He should win by 56, 57% of the vote. He won't, but he should.
I think he might. I will know. I think he will. I'm not going to put that honestly.
Better.
I do think he will. I think
You better. You got $200 riding on it, bro.
When it comes to her and like her campaign, I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. I still do. My gut just tells me it's not a real, like the energy is not there. Like you see energy for Trump and you see it. And you see a lot of people who were never really Trump people, and they're still not Trumpers, they're not MAGA people, but they just want to see a policy that kind of maybe takes things back away from the edge, so to speak.
Trump always had the energy behind him. You're right. He has that group that you know, the
hardcore,
the
follow, yeah.
You know, he has quote unquote fans, right?
Sure.
It's not just supporters.
Fanboy politics, yeah.
But I disagree with you. I do think she has energy because, and again, it just might be comparative to Biden that's making it look better than it is.
That's big though.
But I don't really think that the amount of people that show up at a campaign rally, I don't think that that's going to matter in the end. I think what matters in the end is getting out the vote. And the Democrats are great. And I know you're going to talk about the getting out not the real
dead
votes,
vote.
But even for real,
Legal immigrants,
even just the real votes, they've always been better than the Republicans.
They're very good at motivating their base and getting their base moving.
They get people out to vote. They get buses at, outside church meetings and everything. I mean, they get people out to vote.
They do. I agree.
And Trump has got to stop, and he has stopped a little bit, but he's got to encourage early voting. You know that this is the game now.
Yeah, they have been the last month or two. I think they've really been pushing that early vote. A lot of the people in that sphere are like pushing it hard now. The early voting, bank your vote, is what they're saying.
Because that is what's in close states, those swing states. That's going to be the difference. Whether you get
there was to vote. Like you had like places like in Arizona where they had problems with the machines, they ran out of paper, things like that. Stuff like that's going to happen on election day. So I have to agree with the people out there in the pundit sphere that are saying it. Bank your vote. Get out and vote early. Bank your vote. Definitely.
I mean, I never quite understood it. To me, I've lived in New York my whole life. I guess you lived in other states, but here in New York, the polls are open from 6 in the morning to 9 at night.
Yeah,
you're always within either a short walk or a short bus ride from a polling station.
Oh yeah, easily.
I have never stood on line for more than 20 minutes, a half hour tops. Most of the time, not even that.
Yeah.
I never understood the problem with just having an election on election day. And of course, military people and diplomats who are overseas, that's different.
Some people can't. That's a different animal. Those would be the only people that should be voting early or voting by mail.
Of course. But I never understood, because the argument was before COVID. There was always people arguing that there should be early voting and mail-ins and this and that. And COVID gave them the
excuse to bring it in, yeah.
But I liked it better when there was an election day, but other countries have election weeks. There are countries that do that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the paper ballots. I like election day because I feel like it's a much more sincere, honest vote, and you don't have the conspiracies, whether they're true or not, coming out around it.
Right, because
distraction.
Exactly. That's a great point, because that's even if the paper ballots are, let's even pretend they're 100% honest.
Right.
There's always going to be the illusion that they're not, because there's too much of a chain of possession, right? It's going from this box to this person to that person to whatever, as opposed to just clicking pulling the lever or whatever, and then you're done. So there's always going to be that fear of fraud, and it's exasperated by having mail-in ballots and early voting.
And then the Smartmatic machines.
I mean, listen, I wouldn't mind having like election weekend, like where the polls are open from Saturday through Tuesday.
Well, that makes sense, actually.
I'd have no problem with that. But,
wouldn't be bad.
Politics is a game, and they're playing the game better, the Democrats, over the last few years. They're taking advantage of the COVID situation.
They, without a doubt. But they've been better at their strategy overall.
Nip head for a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I just had a couple of things. They've definitely been better with the strategy overall, and that's part of why.
For a long time now, I think since Reagan, really, they've been since Reagan kind of left with once Clinton took office is where I think their strategy, they got really good at strategy really quick, and Clinton kind of carried that forward for them. And look, that guy, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you were on, Clinton could get your attention and hold your attention.
Yeah, he's a brilliant politician. Listen,
very charismatic.
If his dumbass wife would have listened to him in 2016, she may have been president.
She would have won.
But
she wanted
like many wives, she thought she knew everything better. So.
Well, it was just that she wanted to be like this authoritative.
Sorry, ladies, I love you.
Well, she was very authoritative and very dismissive and very just nasty. Like,
Yeah.
there was no appeal there. It was like, why is this old hag that's being so mean to everybody think that she deserves my vote? Even on people I know people who are hardcore Democrats, and they wouldn't refuse to vote for her. They wrote in other people's names,
Sure.
whatever.
No, she wasn't likable, and by the way, I think maybe in our debate video we'll talk about does personality matter, how much the candidate is. But I was more talking about how, at least from what I read, I don't know if it's 100% true or not, but Bill Clinton was telling her to get her ass up to Michigan and get her ass up to Wisconsin a couple of days before the election, because he saw trends that looked bad, and she just had it in her head that she's winning those states and didn't want to listen to a man who won many elections. He was elected governor, I think, 5 times.
Yeah.
Because there's only 2-year terms down there in Arkansas, I think.
Yeah.
And he won the presidency twice. Mike, a couple of the points you brought up that I just wanted to respond to.
Sure.
You opened by saying that she has excellent strategists, and doesn't that make a good campaign?
No, what I'm talking about is like strategy as far as an element of the campaign, not the campaign overall.
All right.
But she does have excellent strategists, though.
And you had also brought up a lot of the things from 2019 and 20. I don't think that's relevant. Those were primaries. She obviously did a terrible job. She didn't, she had to drop out before Iowa, and she wasn't a good candidate then. But there were things I wasn't good at 5 years ago that I'm better at now. I don't think that really makes that much of a difference.
The biggest, I think, thing with that for me, and I probably didn't explain it, is to me is in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020.
When she was senator?
Right, when she was senator heading towards the vice president, her presidential run in that primary, she was very much like ensconced with the progressive side of the party.
Yeah.
Right, so now you fast forward, and she's come over to more the establishment side of the party.
But isn't that normal? I mean, in primaries, you're going to speak more
and
to
in
the
general,
fringes, and
right?
in general,
you're going to go back to the center. Yeah. Absolutely.
So she didn't have primaries here, which, by the way, I think the Democrats are smart. If they would have thrown this into open convention, it would have been a disaster, I think, for them. But even
it would have been ugly.
Yeah, whether or not she's the best candidate or not, I don't even think is relevant. I think if they had thrown an open primary, it would have been terrible for them. But I just don't think it's fair that because she was a babbling idiot in 2019, which is why she got run out of the primaries.
That's kind of part of my point, is that, and even now still, like the Dana Bash video is not that, it was in the last week or so, and it was awful. If you haven't seen that video yet with her and Dana Bash being everybody in Bash, go check it out. Dana Bash is as far left as you can get in reporter world, and she is extremely partisan in her interview. She gives her the most easy lobbed softball she can. And this woman just keeps swinging and missing throughout the entire interview. It's really...
Well, I mean, I noticed a couple of swings and misses. I didn't think it was all that terrible. I think the terrible look, and it's just my opinion, bringing Waltz with her. I think
That was bad,
made her
yeah,
look
yeah.
very, very weak.
Walls did make it look weak, yeah.
You know, but sit there by yourself, be a grown woman, answer the questions.
Well, that's just it, because you're going to have Walls with you when you're meeting with, say, Palestine or Palestinians, or when you're meeting with, like, the Chancellor of Germany or something like that. Like, are you going to have this guy sitting next to you the whole time doing the work for you? No.
No, of course not. And again, I know that Trump and Vance have done dual interviews. There's nothing wrong with that. But this was her first interview
as the nominee.
I think that was I don't think it's a tragic misstep. I don't think it's going to swing the polls, but I do think she would have made herself look better if she would have been the grown up instead of having to have
Agreed.
Uncle Tim sitting next to her, ready to help
Uncle
her out.
Tim.
Well, that's what it came across as to me.
No,
it
it
like
did. It looked bad.
It
was
was
a
my
bad
uncle
look.
protecting me.
Yeah, it
but,
was a bad look.
But again, with the Dana Bash thing, I mean, the media are what the media are. That's
Yeah,
just
without
it.
a
So
doubt.
they're going to throw softball questions.
Without a doubt, but I agree with you. I think that her having Walsh there was definitely kind of detracted from it. But I feel like she just missed a lot of. She just keeps missing opportunities that should be easy ones for her at this level of politics, at the level of playing that she's doing. These are like easy ones that she should be knocking out of the park, and she keeps missing. And to me, that speaks to not just her but her campaign.
Yeah, I just disagree. I don't think she's swinging and missing it very much. I mean, again, she hasn't put herself out there in interviews. I'm not talking about that. There's nothing to swing and miss at if you're not going out for interviews.
Fair enough, yeah.
But I just think as a candidate and as a campaign, I just think they've stayed on their message. As again, the message is a bunch of platitudes. Oh, by the way, that's the other thing too, is that her campaign. I know she's got this happy warrior thing, and it just, I find that cringy, the whole happy warrior thing.
It's just
backwards. I do get it to this point because Biden was just such an angry, bitter.
They're trying to contrast completely from what
dick.
he was. Yes.
And they have to know this because
they're trying to get away from the Dark Brandon moments.
Yes, exactly. Because they've kept him at arm's length.
Yeah.
Right, which is also smart because he's not
yeah.
popular, and maybe he was a nice guy in the past, but he's just such a bitter, angry, nasty fuck. And I think maybe they're just trying to contrast that because again, Biden was in the dumpster, right? That's why he got pushed out of the race.
Yeah, they were like, "Goodbye, you're done."
So it would be pretty dumb to come in and kind of just continue the same campaign strategies that he had.
No, yeah, but Biden also had the, I think he had his wife and others involved in his campaign strategy and his policy. I think that Biden was reflective of his family.
Yeah, and that's got to be the worst thing to do is have your wife helping you out there because she's not going to be honest with you. I mean, whatever you think of her or him, I'm sure she loves him very, very much, and she thinks he's wonderful, and she's not going to really be able to give him a fair assessment.
I agree.
And just having her as one of his biggest advisors, I think that was a dumb move of his. But you know what? He's passed. He's in the history books now.
Yeah, he's done. So it doesn't even matter.
He's done. But he was such a bitter, nasty fuck for 4 years.
Oh God, yeah.
So I think that's why they're trying to portray her as the smiling,
the joyful warrior.
And she's not an unattractive woman, right?
She's not unattractive at all. Huh. But it's an excellent contrast. You're right. Yeah. It is an excellent contrast. Like I said, she has some smart strategists. But, you could have the best generals in the world. If you don't execute the plans they give you, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of how I feel about her campaign. I feel like there are missed opportunities there, or there are things they're doing. And I think the energy she had was just the fact that all of a sudden they had somebody other than Biden to choose.
Yeah, but that's energy.
And that's it. It is energy, but I think that only goes so far.
Well, we'll see. And you may be right about that. That may fade out. Again, I think, and that's why our next video is going to be about the debate, kind of like a preview of the debate that's coming up in a couple of days. But, when I was talking last week about the campaign and even today, I can only talk about it up to now. I can't predict whether it's going to implode or go off in a bad direction.
Sure, yeah, because everybody else does that. It's just nonsense, yeah.
But up to right now, her campaign is controlling the narrative.
They're doing well with it.
Again, they've even got Trump, for some reason, all of a sudden wanting to expand Obamacare. I just don't understand.
The IVF
and
thing.
Listen, you know what? He could and this is not my idea. I can't claim credit. I just don't remember where I heard it. But now that this is out there, the free IVF stuff...
Yeah.
Because it really is just an expansion of Obamacare, right? It's a $1 billion mandate on insurance companies telling them they have to now provide this.
Provide IVF.
Again, not my idea, but I thought it was brilliant. If he could just frame this as a pro-family sort of a thing and say, you know what? We're Republicans. We're in favor of family. These people need help creating a family. Families are good for America. This will create more in the economy because people are going to buy things for kids. If he could frame it that way, as opposed to just this wacky thing he came up with yesterday to try to get votes, I think that would be a great idea. I can't remember who said that, but I thought it was pretty smart.
Well, it is smart because that's what I honestly, that's what I thought it was. I hadn't seen much of what he said about it yet, to be honest with you.
He didn't say anything about family.
Yeah. So I haven't seen much of what he said about it. So to me, that's what I thought it was because we have the declining birth rate, right? And and this was a way to kind of push those numbers back up again because you need
and
people to have babies.
And even contrasted. Now, this is my idea. I didn't get this one. I just thought of this. Even contrasted to the Democrats with abortion. We want to create babies. They want to kill them.
Kill them, yeah.
You know, we want babies. We're in favor of families. We're in favor of babies.
Yeah.
We're against abortion, but we would love to give you money to get IVF so you could create a family.
That'd be a very smart.
Frame it like that. Again,
that'd be a great contrast to use because it really showcases the differences.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not a fan of government mandates on insurance companies and so forth, but
neither am I.
It's already out there. He's already said it. He can't take it back. So frame it as a pro-family thing and contrast it to abortion. You know,
I agree.
We're the party of life.
Yes.
We even want to help create life.
Yes.
They're the party of death.
Yes.
Frame it like that.
100%. It's the best contrast you could get.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, Donald, if you're listening, I won't even charge you for that advice, pal.
Won't even charge you.
All right, Mike. We'll do our debate video next. So let us know what you think, guys. Am I off the mark here? And again, remember, I'm not shilling for Kamala.
No.
I'm voting for this guy.
Yeah.
You can have two competing thoughts in your head at the same time.
It's true. You don't have to be stuck in
think
your feelings. You can give
he's
credit where
the
credit's
candidate
due.
I want. I just think she's running the better campaign at the moment.
Yeah, just
for the reasons I gave.
Just take yourself out of the emotions and look at it rationally and realistically, and you'll get a much more honest answer for yourself about everything.
I probably didn't convince Mike, but if I convinced you, let me know. If Mike convinced you, let us know. And tell us what you think. But Mike, you want to tell them to subscribe?
So, subscribe, like the video, share it out with friends, family, people you think might actually enjoy it or are interested in this kind of stuff. And we look forward to seeing you in the comment section. So make sure you get in there and comment.
Please.
Let us know how you feel, what you think, what you'd like to see. If you want to see something that we're not doing, let us know. We'll happily get to it.
Share it out. We're trying to do something new. We're just trying to have just a conversation. It's not a debate. It's not Mike crushed Rick on the abortion debate.
Not at all.
It's not about that. It's just two guys having a conversation. We disagree sometimes. We agree sometimes. We're not going to be a fake Hannity and Combs and purposefully disagree or anything like that.
No,
it's just a conversation. And hopefully you guys can get involved in that conversation with us. So,
All right, guys. Good night. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Enjoy.